Hey folks, the Leica M EV1 is finally here, and for the first time in history, we got a Leica M with an electronic viewfinder. Who is this for? Is it any good? What do I think about it? I'm gonna tell you everything in just a second. Let's first talk about why it's great to have an EVF on an M camera. The first thing is for eyesight concerns over time. If you have glasses or if you don't have the perfect view, it might be difficult to use an M camera with a traditional rangefinder style viewfinder because, well, you know why. It is a little bit complicated. So people tend to turn to VisoFlex, which is an external little viewfinder that you put on the hot shoe that allows you to see like this or like this, and it's great. But having it in the actual body of the M camera is so much easier, so much better. The other reason, which is my personal favorite reason, is for exposure preview. You can see your exposure in real time. If you have to overexpose or underexpose or do any setting change, you can do so because this camera is going to give you, as you know, a proper exposure based on what the light meter sees or gets. It will tell you, okay, this is the proper exposure based on the proper settings. But this is not always the case. Sometimes you want to overexpose, sometimes you want to underexpose, sometimes you want that contrasty look, signature look of Leica files, and you either have to do it afterwards in post, which is a bit of a pain, or you just simply can't see how it's gonna look. So what I was doing by the end is I was using the LCD at the back or VisoFlex to be able to see my exposure, which kind of defeats the reason why you would use an M camera. Another reason is the focusing assistance. Not everyone is comfortable with focusing in rangefinder style. And that is a great advantage because you get 3 different types of assists, which I will tell you more in a moment in this video, but that is yet another reason why it would be good to have an EVF on an M camera. Another reason is wide-angle lenses. Wide-angle lenses usually tend to hide a little bit the optical viewfinder and you have a hard time seeing the frame, wherein now that's not an issue anymore. Last but definitely not least, you get the essential shooting data such as the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO, and the exposure compensation that are displayed at the bottom of the viewfinder. The image remains fully visible without an overlay, which basically means that you can see what you're shooting and you can also see your settings in real time and change whatever you want without having to always look away, change your settings, look what settings you have and so forth. And you know what's funny? We had EVFs for over a decade now. I had it on my SL, on the Q, and now having it on the M just makes a lot of sense. I was the first one to complain about having an EVF on the M. Mea culpa, it's true. I was the first one to complain and say, this is not going to be an M anymore because why would you put an EVF? The rangefinder, Messucher in German, that's why it's called M, it would lose all its charms. Now the thing is, it is not going to replace a traditional rangefinder M camera. It's going to be an alternative so that you can also get one of these if you need to. And honestly, I'm kind of getting used to it. Let's talk about the EVF real quick. It's got the eye sensor, so when you get close like so, it's going to turn on and off, or it's going to switch between EVF and LCD. It's got an integrated diopter adjustment little lever here, as we find on the Leica Q. This is great for people that wear glasses. And it's got a 5.76 million dot resolution. Let me tell you a little bit about the resolution of the EVFs from Leica. I've said this in a lot of videos that I made on this channel. The EVF that Leica proposes is, to me, to date, the best I've ever shot with. It is just incredible. It is crisp, it is clear, crystal clear. It shows you the information very well, and it has that superior quality. And I'm not saying that because of the dots, that, you know, their actual resolution. It is because they use glass and not plastic in their EVF, and that makes the whole difference. It is more expensive, it is more complicated to make. It is Leica. And they make sure every single detail is made properly. And that is a huge assist when I'm shooting in low light or when I'm taking photos of events for the entire day. It really makes it easier and it makes it easy on the eye when you're taking photos using the EVF. Now, what about the assistance that I was telling you about earlier in the EVF? So the first one is focus peaking. You get focus peaking. If you don't know what that is, you're gonna get a line, a colorful line around what's in focus. That way you know what is in focus and what is not in focus. And since this is only a manual type of camera, well, it's going to be very, very convenient if you're not used to shooting with a rangefinder camera, or if you want to be precise, like if you're going to be shooting at f1.4, f2, this is a full frame sensor. Therefore, you have to be very, very precise. There is focus magnification. What that does, since this is a 60 megapixel sensor on top of it, it basically zooms in so that you can see closer up what you're taking the photo of, and to make sure that you are actually in focus where you want to be in focus. As I said, especially if you're using wide aperture lenses like f2 or f1.4. There are two digital zooms, times 1.3 and times 1.8. And this is basically what we find on the Leica Q3, where you can crop in when you take your photo. The DNG file is going to remain untouched based on your focal length, but the JPEGs are going to be cropped in. That allows you to, have different focal lengths in one. It is a digital zoom, so you are going to lose a little bit of quality, but we are talking 60 megapixel sensor, so it's okay. One thing I found out is that you can always see the effect of your aperture, the depth of field, based on the aperture you're using. So if you're shooting at f2, you will see in the EVF everything out of focus, everything in focus. If you're shooting at 5.6 or f8, f11, f16, you will see how everything is sharp. The depth of field preview is visible by default in the EVF. That to me is really, really cool. And it just makes shooting so much easier. It basically Leica gives us the tools we need as photographers to take great photos without adding a lot of unnecessary stuff like other brands do, and just keeping it very streamlined, very simple, very basic, but we just have everything we need at our fingertips. Another cool thing they included is a little lever here at the front, the usual lever. The thing is, now if you go to the left or to the right, you can assign, it is basically a function button that you can assign, such as focus peaking or magnification. That again is cool. You want to turn on the focus peaking, you just go click or click, and then you're good to go. A few more things about the camera itself, even though this is a camera very similar to an M11P, for example, but it is still the 60 megapixel sensor resolution. So you get 18, 36, or 60, you can choose in DNG. It's got the Maestro III image processor. It offers the Content Authenticity Initiative, CAI. It is the same as I explained in the M11P. You can go check the video up here if you haven't watched it. But in a nutshell, it means that you can actually protect your images from being altered without you knowing it, or you can prove that they were not altered, which is great against AI, because nowadays everything can be or is being changed. And if you're doing photojournalism, or if you're doing, war photography, event photography, or anything where, press photography, where you have to prove that these are your photos and they were not tampered with, this is a great thing. And lastly, it's got 64 gigs of internal memory. The looks of the camera, the finish, it's got this matte black look. At least the one I have here. I still have all the tapes on it because it's a pre-release model, but I really, really enjoy. I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks like an M. It's got the soul of the M, and that is maybe something that some of you might be concerned by with. I was a little bit concerned about it, but now that I see it, that I hold it in my hand, it really feels like an M camera. But it's got an EVF, and to be honest, I really like that. That pretty much sums up my review of this Leica M EV1. I hope I answered all the burning questions you had. If not, write it down in the comment section below. I'll answer as soon as possible. Meantime, let me know also in the comment section if you would buy this camera. Why? Would you sell your traditional Leica M's to buy one? Why would that be? And I see you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.